Hello, my name's Jim Smith and I'm going to read you a few chapters from my new book, A Super Weird Mystery, Attack of the Haunted Lunchbox. So I'm going to start on the chapter called Cheese and Pickle Sarnie. It was the next morning and Rhubarb was in her kitchen making her packed lunch. She'd stayed up the night before writing up Yoshi's notes for the annoying case of the phantom barcode Twizzler. "Morning, Rubes," said Thelma Plonsky, trudging into the room. She waved her hand in front of one of the cupboard doors and it swished upwards, disappearing into a slot in the ceiling. She grabbed her favourite green mug and walked over to the sink, pressing a big brown button next to it. Steaming hot coffee poured out of the tap straight into the mug. Next she pressed the white button and ice-cold milk started to dribble out of the tap. "That's enough, thank you, Tappy," she said, and the milk stopped dribbling. "I've said it before and I'll say it again. That dad of yours was a very clever man, Rhubarb." Rhubarb smiled as she sliced the cheese and pickle sandwich in half. She plonked it on the counter next to a carton of apple juice, a packet of salt and vinegar crisps, a chocolate bar and a satsuma. Or maybe it was a tangerine. She glanced around for her lunchbox, which was usually lying around on a draining board, all washed up and ready for another day at school. "That's funny, I can't find my lunchbox." "Oops, sorry, Rubes," said Thelma. "I put the leftover bolognese in it last night." She bent down and stuck her head into a cupboard, then stood back up, placing a metal box on the counter. "What's that?" asked Rhubarb. She'd never spotted it before. "It's your dad's old lunchbox," said her mum. The lunchbox was blue and had lots of different shaped panels on the sides. Next to each panel was a little red button. "Check this out," said Thelma, pressing one of the buttons. A triangle-shaped panel slid open to reveal a small compartment behind it. A metal arm with a claw on the end shot out and grabbed the cheese and pickle sandwich. "Wow, is it one of Dad's inventions?" asked Rhubarb, as the claw disappeared back into the lunchbox, along with the sarnie. Thelma nodded. "Terry never went anywhere without his self-packing lunchbox," she said. "What, even to the toilet?" asked Rhubarb, pressing 4 more buttons. 4 of the panels slid open, and 4 metal arms reached out and grabbed the carton of apple juice, the packet of salt and vinegar crisps, the chocolate bar and the satsuma. "Well, no, not to the toilet," said her mum. "What about to bed?" asked Rhubarb. "You telling me he took his self-packing lunchbox to bed?" Her mum rolled her eyes. "Alright, so maybe he didn't take it everywhere," she said. "I just meant he loved his self-packing lunchbox, that's all." Rhubarb stuffed it into her rucksack. "Well, if my dad made it, then I love it too," she said, kissing her mum on the cheek and heading for the door. The Newshound Award. Rhubarb opened the front door to see Melvin standing there with his finger pointing out, just about to ring the bell. "You can ring it if you want," said Rhubarb, feeling a bit sorry for him missing out on a nice doorbell ring like that. "Nah, it's okay," said Melvin, as they started strolling down the street. "There's always another doorbell." "Where's Yoshi?" asked Rhubarb. "Right here," said Yoshi, strolling up behind them. They turned left onto Donut High Street and Melvin looked down at his trainers. "Hey, what's with the squidgy pavement today?" he said. "It feels all squidgy." "Hey, what's with the pavement today?" he said. "It feels all squidgy." Rhubarb took a couple of steps forward. "You're right, it is a bit on the squidgy side. Well spotted, Mel." The mystery case. "The mysterious case of the squidgy pavement," said Yoshi, scribbling it down in his notepad. "What do you reckon, Rubes?" "I like it," said Rhubarb, as they walked through the gates of their school. You know that bit when you're walking from the gates of your school towards your classroom? I completely can't be bothered to write about it. "Morning, kiddos," said their teacher, Mr. Thursday, once everyone had squidged their bums into the chairs. "I've got some very exciting news for 3 of you today." He looked at Rhubarb, Yoshi and Melvin, who were sitting in the front row. "Ooh, spill the baked beans, Mr. Thurs," said Rhubarb. Hector Frisbee, who was slumped in the back row, laughed. "Keep it cool, Plonsky," he said. Hector is the leader of the Cool Dudes, in case you didn't know. "Yeah, Plonsky," said his sidekick, Marjorie Pinecone. "Keep it cool." "Yeah, keep it cool, Plonsky," said Dirk, who's Hector's other sidekick. The Cool Dudes are idiots, by the way. Mr. Thursday ignored the Cool Dudes and smiled at Rhubarb. "I've entered the Daily Donut into the Newshound Award," he said. "The Newshound Award?" said Yoshi. "How exciting! I can't believe we've been entered into the Newshound Award," said Melvin. What's the Newshound Award? Asked Rhubarb. Melvin looked at Rhubarb. Yeah, that's the point. What's the Newshound Award? Mr. Thursday chuckled. It's a competition to find the best newspaper story in the whole of Donut Island, he said. Do you really think we could win? Asked Rhubarb. Absolutely, said Mr. Thursday. It'd have to be a real story though, not like that slime monster one you came up with, although I have to say it was a real cracker. Melvin blinked. We didn't make that up, Mr. T, it really did happen. Melvin nudged her next door neighbour. Don't be silly, Melv, of course we made it up, she said. That's the thing about the mystery of the slime monster that tried to eat everyone on Donut Island. Nobody apart from Rhubarb, Melvin and Yoshi remembered it actually happening. Melvin winked at Rhubarb. Oh yeah, of course, we made it up, he said. Anyway, said Mr. Thursday, the deadline's tomorrow night. Sorry for the short notice, I only just heard about it myself. No problemo, said Rhubarb. The Daily Donut gang are on the case. Hector Frisbee put his hand up, but only halfway, because putting it up all the way wouldn't have looked very cool. Can anybody enter? He asked. Mr. Thursday thought for a second. I suppose, but you'd have to have a newspaper. What if we started one right now? Asked Hector. Rhubarb rolled her eyes. Since when are you interested in newspapers? Hector smiled. Since it started annoying you. Marjorie chuckled. We could call it the Daily Cool Dudes, she said. The Daily Cool Dudes, said Rhubarb, quickly counting up how many donuts you could fit into the logo. That's the stupidest name I've ever heard. Yeah, that name is so stupid, said Melvin. Plus, what would you even write about anyway? Cool stuff that happens on Donut Island, said Dirk. Like when Hector says something cool, we could just write it down and put a photo of him next to it. Hector high-fived Dirk. Nice idea, Measles. Thanks, boss, said Dirk. Mr. Thursday shrugged. Well, there's nothing to stop you having a go if you fancy it. That's that then, said Hector, pushing his sunglasses up his nose. May the coolest paper win. Rhubarb scoffed. Good luck, Frisbee, she said, because you're going to need it, because your paper is going to be rubbish, and the Daily Donut is completely going to win. End of story. Except it wasn't the end of the story. It was just the end of this chapter. Brenda the Hut. After 1 trillion hours of really boring lessons, it was first break. Last person to Daily Donut HQ smells like a twizzled round tin of luxury fermented miniature cabbages in vinegar, said Rhubarb, running across the playground and jumping over a fence into a tiny forest. Hidden amongst the trees sat a little shed. In memory of Brenda the dinner lady, it said on a plaque above the door. Oh, don't you just love Brenda the Hut, said Yoshi as they stepped inside. Brenda the Hut's windows were as filthy as the glass in real-life Brenda's glasses. A set of shelves was screwed into one wall, a collection of strange items lined up on them. There was a jam jar filled with green slime, a little plastic ball lying at the bottom of it. This was a donut hole. This was a donut hole monster, which you'd know all about if you'd read the book before this one. Next to that, there were some other things which I can't be bothered to describe. Right, what are we going to write about for this Newshound Award, said Rhubarb. We can't let the Daily Cool Dudes win. Rhubarb lifted her dad's old lunchbox out of her rucksack and plonked it on the table. Melvin stared at it. Cool lunchbox, he said. Thanks, Mel, said Rhubarb. It was my dad's. He was carrying it when he got eaten by the crocodile. Melvin's eyeballs popped out of their sockets and rolled across the floor, fell out the door and landed in a puddle. Not really. Hang on a millisecond, he said. Your dad was eaten by a crocodile? Rhubarb nodded. I mean, I think he was carrying it when the crocodile ate him. My mum says he never went anywhere without his self-packing lunchbox. Whoa, 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 said Melvin. Your dad was eaten by a crocodile? Rhubarb nodded again. Yeah, when I was a little baby. You didn't know? Melvin shook his head. No, Rhubarb, I didn't know your dad was eaten by a crocodile when you were a baby. What exactly happened? He was in Donut Zoo and a crocodile ate him, said Rhubarb. Nobody knows anything else. Now, how about some ideas for the Newshound Award? Melvin went quiet for a second, taking in the fact that a crocodile had eaten his next-door neighbour's dad. Well, how about the Phantom Twizzler, he said. I don't know if it's got enough pizzazz, said Rhubarb. Yoshi flicked through his notepad. Squishy pavements, he said. Perfect, said Rhubarb, her tummy doing a rumble. Somebody needs a mid-morning snack, said Melvin, sounding like a bit of an old granny. Good idea, said Rhubarb, looking at all the buttons on her lunchbox. Now, which compartment did my chocolate bar disappear into? She spotted a rectangle-shaped panel about the size of a chocolate bar and pressed the red button next to it. Cool, said Melvin as the panel slid open. And then he started screaming. I hope you enjoyed that little snippet from my new book. It's available now from all good bookshops and online. As my kid says, it's better than Barry Loser.